Hey everyone, it's been a while now, and I'm happy to be back because I have a couple of things to share or speak on. And I feel like every time I get on the camera or I'm on a camera, I'm like, man, why doesn't my conversation flow as easily as it does? Let's say when I'm speaking to my partner, or when even sometimes I'm having these, um, I'm thinking about things and I am also having my own analysis on something I heard, learned, read, and I'm just like, okay. Like trying to make sense of that, right? And responding to that in itself. And during those times, I just feel like things like what I would say just flows so easily, but for some reason, camera lost train of thought. But hopefully this will flow. Hopefully, I'm hoping it will flow. So, a lot of updates in terms of life. I thank the Lord, honestly. Actually, this whole transition has allowed me to circle back to faith and really to sit in gratitude of, I feel, the mysterious ways in which God works, right? And I I'm just thankful that every single experience in life will teach you something. Even if it's a negative experience, there are things that you can learn and take away from that you can be like, okay, like I definitely don't want to be like that person. so, if there's negativity and things happening in this world, and I feel like there is, right, so much noise, especially here in the US, this very moment in time, and not even the US. I've spoken about how there's so much chaos. If I am not mistaken, I think I've spoken on this, or I've wanted to speak on this. There's so much chaos happening just about everywhere around the world, and it's just like wow, it makes me think about actually sit in many of the things that my mom, like I grew up in a very Christian household and very faith-based household. Naturally, I have a lot of questions regarding faith in Christianity because it's unfortunate, but I'm going to keep it 100%. I feel like Christianity and just about every other faith that exists, or many faiths that exist, fortunately, they're impacted by the politics and the societies that are in this world or exist in this world. And it's sad because Christ, I've spoken on this before. Christ, and I've said this very statement, and I believe it aligns so closely. And he was one about staying focused on and keeping your eyes set on the one above, right? On on let me see how I would say said not only setting your eyes on the one above, but the simple fact that we are merely passing, right, through this world. We're not going to be here forever. We're not eternal beings, and therefore setting your eyes on what is beyond here. So it's sad that I feel like there's so much things that happen and so many things that impact people's livelihood, and that this is why I speak so much on social justice, because I do believe wholeheartedly that Christ himself was a social justice warrior, was a woke individual. He really was, because let's look at his ministry. Christ himself walked on earth and was a carpenter, lived very simply, very humbly. He served individuals, he served the communities, he lived to bless and heal those that he encountered and came across. And in addition to that, there was this very interesting relationship that was observed with those that believed that they were in accordance to the law, right? Sadducees, Pharisees. Um, and he didn't interact or associate himself much. That's matter with those very individuals, but instead he associated himself with the tax collectors, prostitutes, those that were looked upon by society as lowly. And it reminds me so much of this world that we're currently in, and not even currently in this world that has existed since the beginning of time. And this has always been the norm, where we praise those that are wealthy, we praise those that have power, that have influence, but we always cast aside those that are trying to merely exist. And I feel like this is why I'm so passionate about social justice, um, as a whole, because it's in alignment with Christ's ministry. It's an alignment, direct alignment with who he is and what he came to do on earth. And he hoped to inspire other people to do the same, to create justice for all, not for merely one community, but for everyone. And interestingly enough, Jesus himself was cast aside. Actually, he was crucified. And that in itself says a lot. He was not wanted, right? He was looked at as the very individuals, right, that he moved with, and he had such close relationships and fellowship with women. Although naturally we know that historically and even till now there is so much of a divide with women and men, and Christ was like, there's no divide for me, we are one. And I love that. It's, honestly, I feel like Christ's mission was truly, truly amazing, and transcended beyond human understanding and interpretation. So it's so it moves me every time I think about the ministry of Christ, and I hope that I can have even a bit of that heart of Christ, one that put people before himself. That's so important, and only if we as humanity had that heart for others, we would stop, all this nonsense of conflict and chaos, and only thinking about self and not thinking about the collective, which is something that I've observed, especially now. And let me make it known that Christ was not someone that came to uphold politics and uphold the systems of this world. He said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God, and kept his eyes set on the one that was leading him. But I will say this, that Christ, in the same breath, allowed his actions to speak. It wasn't talk, it was actions. And unfortunately, in this country, the actions have not matched with what has been preached. When we speak on, and I've said this many times before, it's just like when we speak on land of the free, has it been the land of the free? It hasn't, right? It's only been the land of the free for select individuals, which has excluded the Black community and other communities of color as well. And it's sad because there's always been this attempt, I feel, here in this country to alienate. And this is just mere observation. But I've noticed this attempt to alienate the Black community and cause a divide within communities of color. Not only the white community, right? It's also communities of color. Because it's interesting how historically the Jewish, Irish, Italian community weren't labeled white. Well, all of a sudden today we forget that very thing, right? And it's more puzzling when people forget where they came from, right? with all the ICE raids happening, and this is a reflection of what has happened historically as well. Have we forgotten slavery existed? There's been encampments of the Asian community, villainization and demonizing of the Arab community because their religion is not in alignment with Christianity, yet Christianity stems from the Middle East, right? That's where it originated from. It's interesting how there's always been this attempt to villainize, right, communities, to label as, insert whatever negative thing or idea, belief, certain communities. It's interesting how slowly but surely every other community of color has, and even current day white communities, have come into the umbrella of white. Interesting. Is this an attempt, right, to divide our communities, to also forget our history, right? Too many European Americans, and I say it for what it is because white Americans forget that they were once, their ancestors were once in Europe and escaped religious persecution or whatever political conflict was happening or issues and instability that there was in Europe, and came to the US, and now simultaneously, and has done this for forever, right? Trauma. But let's not blame it on trauma. Let's not blame it on you experience something, you want another community to experience it. Take accountability, right? Taking accountability for the fact that in life and in this world, and if you claim to align with faith, with Christianity, how is your message, how is your life not in alignment with the one that Christ upholds, which includes all people and brings all people, right? To know of him. He didn't say, Christ never said, go out merely to his region and bring the good news. He said, go out to the world, right? He wanted all people to come in, to know him. He was interested in goodness finding them. And it's sad that in a country that speaks on patriotism, aligning and being linked to Christianity, which don't align politics and faith. Let's just take a moment to understand that Christ was someone that was persecuted during those very times because his views did not align with those of the Roman Empire, right? But if you want to protect, which almost seems that America is the Roman Empire, then are you in alignment with Christ, right? No, because his focus and mission wasn't about putting out there an agenda that benefited solely one community, right? When I think about make America great again, it's not making America great again. It's making America white. Let's be completely honest. I actually observed something, and I've noticed this, and it's interesting because someone actually commented this as well, and I was like, whew, you hit the nail on the head. And I've noticed a lot of these ICE agents going after men, Hispanic men for the most part, Latinos, right? Latinos, Latinas, if you know Spanish language, you know Latinos, although it often does cover all of us, but meaning men, right? In this case, when I speak. But it's just like, why is that? It's interesting how almost every single person, yes, I've seen a couple of women, but not so much. It's always men they're out to get. And I thought to myself, interesting. There's a birth decline, right? As we know, Western world as a whole. I did public health. That was my focus in grad school. And we know that Western world, especially the Western world, and more so developed countries. I don't want to say so much only the Western world, because rapidly developing or developed countries have shown a decline in birth rate. And I would say that this country is also moving away from necessarily having, or that's not something that is a priority, unfortunately, in this country. And we can go into that with, well, let's see, people have to work endless jobs. I'm someone that's going to soon be taking up a second job. Yeah. When are you supposed to have time for family? When are you supposed to have time to even people, a lot of people think wealth, money provides all answers. But let's take a moment to even analyze the lives of those that are wealthy and have it all. Most of them are working endless hours. Fortunately, a lot of times their children are neglected emotionally. It's always other individuals stepping in for the care of them. And on the other spectrum, right, on the other end, we see individuals that undergoing poverty or middle class communities that are just merely trying to survive sometimes, or just working endless hours. It can, once again, it's when do you find time, right? And then it's other people raising that. I feel like with more understanding of the impact of being, born and raised in a maybe low income family. I grew up in one, and I know that there was a lot of things I was just like, I don't want my kids. I want my kids to have everything that they need and more. And since I want to bring in, kids, because there's so many kids that are out there without homes, and how are we not opening our arms, to extending? Where's our love for Christ? Where's our love for Christ? Christ adopted us, right? He calls us our son, his daughter. He says, call him Father. And we are here talking about just a small picture of things like, oh, no abortion. But then we don't really care to even take a moment to realize how broken the foster care system is, and how there's endless children that don't have a safe, good home that will provide them the safety that they need in order to be emotionally and mentally well, and be able to thrive. These are important aspects in order to grow and develop, right, at the rate required, and allows them to, and prevents or minimizes the chances of then later on having to figure life out, right? You lost in this world, broken systems, broken people, then it creates more if we don't tackle it, if we don't address that. Why is there so much chaos? Endless things on the news all the time about something and someone going out there, and we're not realizing that maybe our focus shouldn't be on weapons, on things that we And why are we hurting animals? That what? I don't I'm oh my Lord. Where is our heart? Where is our compassion? Where is our humanity? We speak on being civilized, and yet the actions say uncivilized. We speak about being progressive and having progress, yet we don't value education. We don't value mental, emotional growth and well being in this country. We instead value money, power, individuals. We want to follow individuals instead of leading the way, right? Being able to think for yourself. We want others to think for us. But then we say, we must not be lazy, but we want other people to make those decisions. We want other people to lead the way. Make it make sense. And we also want to say, especially with this individual coming and doing the Super Bowl, Bad Bunny, I've listened to his music in the past. I had moments, I'm Latina. I had a time. I love all. I really the genres. I appreciate all genres, but I'm not gonna lie. I do like R&B a lot. I like jazz a lot. I like rap. I'm an urban gal. Let's just say that I'm an urban gal. I love and I love Afro beats too. I love certain music that people will be like, oh, I thought you liked. It's interesting because I always have. I'm like, no, I love listening to Arabic music. I just love music. Music is so healing, many of the times. But yeah, we do need to be mindful of what word we're putting out there. I'm more of a person that listens to beats, not to go off track. More of a person that loves beats. Like I love movement. I love movement. We gotta stay moving so then we can be in a better sound and a more sound mind, feeling better ourselves. I feel a lot of times is unfortunately just around the world as a whole, we don't realize how important pouring into people in terms of ensuring that they're being educated and informed on history, the real history of this world. And also we're investing in movement, exercise, things that are good and beneficial instead of news. Why are we listening to news that terrorizes us all the time? Stop that nonsense and go for a walk, please. I'm so tired of this news. The news is always dictating how we have to think and believe and feel. Like, go read a book on the history. And it's okay if history isn't all that pretty, because guess what? That brings healing. Jesus never said hide things. He said reveal and give him all the things when he wants to give us healing and when we want to be renewed. He doesn't say hide. He says he will reveal all the things that are in darkness. And that's what's happening in the world. All the ugliness that has happened for so many years. All the colonization, all the oppression is coming to surface. And it cannot exist anymore. It will not exist anymore because the truth will always come to light. He reveals all things in light. And it's so sad that people want to hide things, but not realizing how it can bring healing instead and bring us closer together. Because guess what? There's no distrust when you are lying and when your actions are not matching up with your words. You speak on Christ, but don't live his life. You speak on things that exist and you think are, but aren't. Tell me what it is. Tell me what it is, because otherwise I can't believe and trust what you say. Let your actions match your words, and that's what Christ's ministry and life was. His actions matched his word. When the devil presented to him, right, everything, he said, here, throw yourself off the cliff. I will give you all the riches. He knew what it was. He knew it was deception. He knew it was lies. He knew it wasn't what it all seemed. Well, then what? For all things on this earth to pass? He knew that this place was just merely a place we were passing through. And not to diminish the fact that we should just solely focus on one thing, on religion. Sometimes we get so consumed in religion, we don't realize how we're also living in this world. And there's so much in this world that needs healing and that needs life and hope. We're so focused on us. But actually, I want to say this much. There was someone that was listening to on... or someone that introduced Godfrey Comedy. You guys know, I think I shared this, that I went to Godfrey Comedy. Or I went to see Godfrey Comedy, and check him out if you haven't. Great. Great. One of the few YouTubers that I'm just like faithfully will see what he's posted. And as well as Jessie Woo. So if you guys, any recommendations, I really appreciate them and their just honesty and transparency, even if it's sometimes hard to digest. It is. I like honesty. I like when it is. Unfortunately, the systems of this world will afford. Sadly enough, we've been so blinded and conditioned to believe that certain aspects of this world and this life, and we want to present this country and even other countries. It doesn't matter. A lot of people think, oh, if you're criticizing this country, maybe you should go to another country. But then the same breath says the beauty of this country is the freedom of speech. Once again, where are the actions matching what you're preaching? If the beauty of this country is freedom of speech, then why are you trying to silence me and eliminate freedom of speech? Do you only want what you say to go? That doesn't sound like a free society. That doesn't sound like a society that allows freedom of speech. That seems like a society that allows selective speech, and therefore it's not free. So which one is it? And that's sad. In this world, it's almost as you can't really think. You must just follow and do as I say. But I say think. And I like this slow, I think it was a slogan or a logo that one of the ministries I used to listen to in regards to apologetics. Unfortunately, that didn't go so well eventually. But I like how it says, let my people think. I agree. I do agree. I just love knowledge. I feel like knowledge is truly power, and knowledge actually sets you free. When you understand the realities of this world, and things are not always linear, or not always simple. A lot of things are sometimes complex, and it's okay for them to be complex. But we understand how things from the past affect the present, and things just always impact one another, right? Everything is in alignment. It's almost like our bodies. We shouldn't only worry about physical health. We should worry about mental health or emotional health. Those are very important things in order to thrive. Same as the world. It's almost like a body, right? If we're not all working together, if we're not all functioning together, we're not all taking care of the important aspects of our life, and we're instead busy listening to all the noise that exists, then we lose focus and lose center. And this is why I feel like Christ's also mission, ministry, and his life just speaks so much on everything that happens in the world, because he's like, set your eyes on me. All the noise, even if it's ugly, even if it's sad, I will take care of it. Like he says, Christ also says, vengeance is mine, right? So I can trust and rest in him that he will do what he needs to do to help us as humanity, as people, to really, even if this is a flawed, and we'll always be an imperfect world, but to at least inspire others to lift as we climb. That's one thing I learned in a technical program that I did, and it also speaks to what I was just going to say at Godfrey Comedy. There was this individual that introduced Godfrey, and he said, they say you get out of the hood, you could take the hood, you could take the guy or the girl out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of them. And he said, I'll take it a step further. Yeah, you are who you are. Our lives, our lived experiences, part of our identity. And he said, but I stayed, I believe he said, but I stayed in the hood and improved the hood. And I was like, woo, Lord, oh my gosh, I love it. Because only if we had that take in life, only if we had that, that understanding. I feel that's such a Christ-like understanding. Christ moved with all people. He welcomed all people. He partook and he fellowshiped with all people. That should be us. We should be partaking and fellowshipping with all people and welcome all people, because people in this world, life, the world is so vast, so diverse in everything, in perspective and ideas and beliefs. And guess what? We learn something from each and every one of us. And if you are living in your own little cave, little isolation, little I just want to be safe and I don't know what's out there, turn off the TV first and foremost. Go out there and see and speak to people and get to know people, because I feel like when we come together as people in terms of understanding that there's so many hurt people, and Christ, I feel like Christ particularly had an eyes set on those hurting and those that were looked as they had nothing and they offered nothing and were outcasts. He was outcasted himself. And I said, he was crucified. And he understood. And he said, I want to be with those people, because those people are me too. And I love that. I really do. And I hope that the world can move towards that, towards healing, towards life. Because life, Christ says he gives us life and life in abundance, right? And yes, I just pray and hope that I know that we are just merely passing through, but we make an impact, especially for those that are on my page that have followed me and chosen to follow me, because my message speaks to you, because my message also is one that perhaps you believe in, one that you have an understanding in. Perhaps you've experienced all these things. I've spoken about the colorism, racism I've experienced in the past, and I've spoken about the uncomfortable situations that I've encountered, especially as someone that, was temporarily living in the suburbs, but also just a lot of other things in life as navigating not only here, but in the world, and seeing how racism, colorism has impacted the greater world. I want you to remember that, we can move up the ladder. We can become a better us. And that's our hope. That's one thing that I really, really just believe in so much. And I pray so much. May our communities of color, really pray, can move up. Not, I understand that this world and the systems that exist are totally unfair. Sad. It breaks my heart when I see division in communities of color, because I've encountered that even working within communities of color now. And I apologize for my doggy and the noise, but even something I've seen navigating around communities of color, and I've always known this, and this is why I speak so much on anti-Blackness, because as a Latina, I've seen this throughout my life, and not only within the Latino community, in other communities of color, where it's not beneficial and conducive. It's not beneficial and conducive when you are are preaching or speaking or going along with a message, right? A message that was established due to colonization that has, mind you, affected the entire world. If we're making differentiations on skin color and race, ethnicity, then we're causing a disservice to ourselves. Let's be honest. The systems that exist have leveraged the white community and the white community alone, right? And when we think that just by agreeing or aligning with white supremacy is helping us, it's not. We look very silly. Very, first and foremost, we look very silly and very informed when we do that. Because when all is said and done, we are not white, right? I don't identify as white. Unfortunately, these are constructs created in this world. Naturally, we know, and create division. This is not what Jesus Christ has ever intended. But unfortunately, we live in a flawed world. We live in a world that is led by men, is led by, even I'll take a step further, is led by the devil himself, because he's leading individuals to do and think and say these things, and spew racism and spew hatred and uphold oppression, right, of communities of color around the globe, because we also see, unfortunately, colonization still impact the world in countries, in which I've mentioned, Palestine. There's no reason a community that once experienced persecution, mind you, I'm going to say this much, many communities here in America that are now labeled white were not considered white at once upon a time. Let's not forget the Jewish community. Let's not forget the Irish community. Let's not forget the Italian community. Let's not forget. Because when we forget our roots, when we forget our origins, when we forget our identity, and what once we've all been there. We've all been through difficult situations. Our ancestors were probably marginalized, or you could have heard a thing or two in regards to persecution that they experienced, and you forget that your very own community and people once experienced that. European communities were fleeing from persecution, right? Of religious persecution, political persecution, and then persecute the Native community, the Black community, now Hispanic community. What is this? Do we not learn from our experiences? Do we not learn anything?